It all started in 1914 France. In Vimy, French soldiers were at their trenches carrying out their duties, but the Germans showed up on top of the ridge, and they realized the value of the high ground, so they slowly turned the ridge into a complex trench system. By the way, I built these trenches similar to Vimy, except at a much smaller scale. During 1915, the French launched multiple attacks to take over Vimy, but the Germans held their ground. Over the span of 1915, there were a total of 150,000 casualties for the French soldiers. With this many troops injured, they decided to call for backup to help hold the ridge. So they called in mostly British and a few Canadian soldiers to not only help hold the trenches, but to take over Vimy Ridge once and for all. During 1916, the British were the main ones on the bottom side of Vimy, and their main focus was mining to the enemy's territories through some chalk mines that were in the area. Hence, both sides began digging. The digging was mainly done by sappers, who were originally just miners before the war. And being a sapper was difficult, since you were tasked with digging through the chalk mines close to German territory to plant explosives so they could later be detonated. But if you made any sound, and I mean any sound, you were in trouble, since both sides had geophones which would track absolutely any sound. So if you made any sound at all, your position would be given away, and you'd be in for a rough time as the Germans dig you out. Aside from all the digging, the Germans did send out attacks to the British. Still, despite the casualties, the British held their ground. By the end of 1916, Canadian soldiers were sent over to Vimy Ridge to replace the British soldiers and hold Vimy down. And later on, their commander was replaced by Lieutenant General Sir Julian Byng, who motivated and gained the trust of his soldiers up to the point of the soldiers calling themselves the Byng Boys. Sir Arthur Currie was one of the Canadian soldiers. He proved an excellent corps commander who got along with Julian Byng. He helped a lot in the planning of the battle. They also started getting info on the layout of the German trenches and their tactics by getting airplane footage. They also imprisoned some German soldiers from other battles for information. On April 9, 1917, the Battle of Vimy Ridge began. The Canadian soldiers split into 4 divisions. We are currently in the 3rd division. While Arthur Currie was technically in the 1st division, we will add him here because it is cool. Some soldiers stayed back at the trenches. Some charged through no man's land. And some used the British tunnels to travel closer to German front lines. Their main strategy was called Creeping Barrage, where artillery would be shot, and then soldiers would use the explosion as a shield, allowing them to advance into enemy territory. The battle lasted 3 days, and the Canadians came on top with 10,000 casualties, and out of those, 3,598 Canadian soldiers were killed, and nearly 4,000 German men were taken and imprisoned. After the battle, Lieutenant General Sir Julian Byng began being called Byng of Vimy. The French gave the land to the Canadians as gratitude, where 19 years later, it went from this to this. The place became a monument for all the Canadian soldiers who died in France with no known grave. People would come in to honor the sacrifices the soldiers had made to protect the country. And that was the Battle of the Vimy Ridge. And thank you for watching. Subscribe.